everyone. Good evening. Happy Friday. Good to see you. It's been a minute since I've been here, so I'm excited to be back. I've been traveling a lot this summer and excited to kind of just jump back in and get started. So today's topic is actually staffing plans and how I hired my dream team and how it happened. But when I was preparing for this live, I literally got a visceral response to staffing, and I started really thinking it was just so interesting. Like, I did not want to talk about staffing and staffing plans. So I had to kind of go a little bit deeper and figure out what was going on for me and why. So it's not that I haven't had a dream team member, it's really this concept of toxic staff, right? So people are always talking about toxic bosses, right? But people really don't talk about toxic staff members and like how to avoid hiring toxic staff members as a supervisor, a director, a CEO. So I want to talk a little bit, about that today and kind of like talk through some of my experiences and, really just try to figure out, how to relay this information that, my experiences, things that I've been through, and how to really help people, CEOs, directors, etc., and really help people prepare better, to hire and onboard staff. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Arletha Lizana. I'm the CEO of Transforming Communities. So for those new people that are joining us, hello, welcome. For those who've been around for a little while, again, welcome back. Okay, so let's see. Let's go ahead and kind of, I'll give you some, of the background, some of the scenarios and things like that. So as I was saying, when I was preparing, for this live, I had a really visceral response. So I had to kind of examine, what that response, is. And so the responses that I was, really, the response that I was feeling was that it's been difficult, as a Black woman, CEO, it's been difficult as a Black woman, director, supervisor, manager, all of the above, sometimes to work with staff, right? And I feel like, I've really, put a lot of time and energy into trying to make sure that I had the right staff, make sure that staff, we had the payroll to pay staff, making sure that I was doing development with the staff, making sure that the staff was happy, But in all of that, as I've grown along the years, sometimes it's really not about all of those things that you put in place. Sometimes there are a lot of personalities that are at play. And so I always talk about how I really wish, if I had to go back and do it again, yes, I'm still student laureate, so I like to, I still like to learn, but, if my family agrees and lets me go back to school, they probably won't. I really would like to study psychology, really just understanding human beings, because I think that is an aspect that really helps with, staffing, understanding organizational behavior, and all of the above. Because as I mentioned, the things that come into play are really like personality, and like kind of like how can you really avoid that when planning to hire and onboard staff. So some of my experiences, again, as a Black woman, I've had where males didn't like what I was saying. They didn't want to accept my authority. They didn't want to do what I wanted them to do. And let me put a disclaimer out there. I'm not talking about any of my current staff. So for those of you that may be watching that, I'm not talking about you guys. So I'm talking about just staff members that I've had in the past. So I had that, male staff member that just didn't want to listen to, anything that I had to say. And so had their own agenda, things that they wanted to do as a part of their position, and not really trying to run those by me as their supervisor. So it was a pretty, difficult situation. I also had those who have, gotten up in my face, gotten really close to me, and I'm like, move back, and really, trying to be threatening. I've had, toxic staff members who really didn't want to be there. So sometimes people just take jobs because it's money, right? So let me just go to the job, let me collect my dough or whatever. So we don't talk about those toxic employees that really don't want to be there. And so they're going to sabotage everything that you're doing, right? And let's see, I've had, others, staff members who maybe started out super excellent, and really were trying to, excel and did really well in their tasks, and sometimes were even promoted, but then, they kind of fell off, for whatever reason, and didn't, kind of got to a point and didn't think that they wanted to do anything else. So their growth kind of was stunted, at the time. So some of the things, that, I've learned over the years is just really to focus in on the staffing plan a little bit more. So what I do annually is when I do a strategic plan. So I do an annual strategic plan. So, at wherever I'm working or in my businesses and things like that. And in the annual strategic plan, part of that is an analysis of the current staff. So who's on board now, what their role is, how they've been doing in the role, what their salary is, any time specifications and anything like that that's needed. That's also in there as well. And then I look at, what some of our goals and objectives are for the coming, year, fiscal year. And so, what additional staffing do I need? Will the current staff that I have cover, will they be able to, work on those tasks and objectives, or do I need to bring on new staff? So I look at all of those things annually as a part of our strategic plan. So the staffing plan is really important. So the staffing plan is really just an, outline of how the organization will recruit, train, deploy, manage its workforce, pretty much, right? And so when I look at, staffing plans, they cover all of those things. I look at, a staffing plan, like I said, who I have on board, what roles they have, what positions I need to hire for, where, if I do need to hire, where can I recruit those members, where's the best place to find really good staff members. And I'm going to tell you the secret just right now. The best place for me is really through word of mouth and recommendations. And I can say that when I've gotten in the past, most of the jobs that I've gotten have been through recommendations. Someone recommended me for the position because they know my background and qualifications. I think it's almost like dating. So, sometimes when you date, the best, kind of dates sometimes are those who are recommended by others, like someone else vouched for them. That's actually how I met my husband. So my cousin, really vouched for him. She was like, no, you guys are like really both nerds. You're really going to get along. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go on a date, but she was right, so I have to say that. But, the recommendations really go long and far. So other things we look at training, so bringing someone on board, what their training background is specifically, for someone who applies for the position, but also in general, what are the training needs in general for that position. Scheduling, when they'll be scheduled. Sometimes I do a lot of community events in some of my work. And so, will they be able to work evenings and weekends and things like that? And then I look at, salary. What can I afford? And I have to tell you what happened during the pandemic. What I could afford was way different, right? And then so I had, an idea in mind for, staff members that I wanted to bring on board, right? But during the pandemic, a lot of people, of course, wanted to work from home, but some of the work from home positions were paying more than positions that were in the office. So I had a small budget. And so at that time, it was kind of like I had to get who I can get. So that also kind of played a part in my staffing plans, particularly the training and the performance aspect. So I had one idea of what the training needed to look like, and then I had another idea when it actually happened, what training needed to happen. And it was way more training and took way more time. So although I may have stayed within budget, in that staffing plan during the pandemic, I had to spend way more time on training and more time on performance management, which is another aspect of the staffing plan. So again, a look at salaries, just getting a little bit more into detail, with salaries. One thing that you have to look at is the cost of a person and the task that they're doing, right? So sometimes when I may have, as a director, make a certain amount of certain salary, right? And then I may have someone else who is a product manager that may make another, type of salary. So the task that product manager or product coordinator, the salary that they make, of course, is going to be different from me as a director. So the task should also be different. So, my time, of course, as a director and, the company has to pay me the most, should be spent doing those really high level, those visionary tasks, those tasks also, procurement tasks, bringing in funds and things like that. Where my other staff members, you need to give them appropriate tasks for their salaries as well. So I know that kind of, maybe is a little bit different way of thinking about it, but I should have them doing, tasks for their that are coinciding with their salaries as well, meaning that they surely shouldn't be doing kind of like super high level visionary procurement type tasks. They should be doing things that are appropriate to their staffing level, and then the things that in terms of, time, burden. So as a coordinator, engaging with people, making sure they keep our lists organized, and things, checking emails and things like that, so make sure that they're also appropriate. Let's see. Also dates when the person will be needed. You want to do a projection, like ahead of time. So if you need someone in October to start, you want to start in June or July if you can. Start putting out feelers, start posting that job description, start talking to people and letting people know that you're hiring. Like I said before, it's really important. Those referrals are really key. So letting people know that you're hiring and, asking for recommendations. Do you know someone, who may fit this description that's may be interested in this position and so forth. Okay, so again, the importance of staffing plans, it's really around efficiency and productivity. It really is crucial because it helps us maintain our operational efficiency. It's a well-structured plan. We can ensure that all roles are covered and tasks are completed on time and, basically just leading to increased productivity. Cost management, as I spoke about, is very important. We really want to avoid overstaffing or understaffing, so overstaffing leads to unnecessary payroll expenses, while understaffing sometimes can result in overtime costs and employees really feeling burdened. And so that's really something that you have to balance over time. As I said, annually, I'm looking at all the positions, people who are working positions now, people who I might need to bring on board, and really trying to keep a balance with that and making sure I ask periodically to all my staff, like, what's on your plate? Really just trying to figure out to make sure they're not overburdened, so what things are you working on now, kind of like what's coming up for you in the next couple of months and 6 months, in the next year, and making sure that I'm not overburdening my staff. So also employee satisfaction and retention, it's a big thing. So again, there is that concept of toxic boxes, right? So, they're out there. So I'm not even going to act like they're not out there. I'm just, keep myself in check and make sure that I never become one. But the idea of, toxic staff members, and toxic employees, we really have to be kind of careful of that. So, we want employees to be well matched to their roles. We want them to be there, right? And we want their workloads to be balanced, and we want them to be satisfied, because satisfied employees stay longer with the company. They reduce turnover and costs associated with hiring and training new staff. So it's important that those staff members have professional development opportunities. communities, and really just talking to them, about like how they're doing in the role, maybe like where they want to go next, like what type of role would they like to have, and see if that can be a part, of your staffing plan. It may or it may not be a part of your staffing plan, but that idea. So again, also kind of like, how do you reduce turnover? Turnover is very hard because when people leave, oftentimes it takes many months to get that position filled, and it could be months related to getting the job posted. It could be months related to finding the right employee, and even getting them hired. And it also depends on when they can start. So getting them hired and onboarded. So we want to reduce turnover as much as possible. So pretty much, is there anyone out there that has any questions? If you do, let me know, and we can kind of talk about that. Also, feel free to share your experiences. And we can I'll wait around to see if anybody is give any information, if they have any questions or want to share your experiences. Otherwise, I just kind of want to conclude, bring things together about staffing plans. So, one of my passions is teaching leaders and how to create and implement efficient staffing plans, like tailored to their unique business needs. So we do have a VIP business intensive. I provide in-depth training to help develop their staffing plans from scratch. So it's something that we do here at Transforming Communities. I've worked with many companies that after implementing, they saw a significant increase in the reduction in increase in revenue and reduction in turnover rates. So a successful staffing plan is extremely important. It's really a clear understanding of your any questions in the chat. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining. Hopefully you learned a little bit about, my visceral reaction to talking about staffing. Staffing is not an easy thing. I have many people, many friends that, really, as a part of their job, the supervising part is really hard. So it's critically important for them to have a staffing plan to hire the ideal staff, the super team, and even if that number, of staff may be smaller than you originally intended, even a small staff that is efficient and productive and happy will be better than having a huge staff where half of the staff isn't doing anything and they're toxic and they're creating issues and really don't want to be there. So really think about planning for this, putting some intention into developing a good team, a productive team and a happy team. So hopefully that was helpful. So it was good talking to you again. Good seeing you again. Like I said, it's been a minute to talk about a topic. Oh, I'm back. So I'll be here. This internet connection has been interesting today, but I'll be here every Friday to discuss a topic in operations management. As I said, operations management is one of my passions. It's really how, to organize and streamline and really just to have, happier people and happier companies and really be able to enjoy life rather than spending so much time putting out fires, right? So good to see you again, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye.